Hey everybody, how you doing? I want to mark this day as having a number of different milestones. First, from us, Zenny62 Media turns 1 year old unofficially today. It was a year ago on April 12th that the state of Delaware signed into law the papers that make Zenny62 Media a Delaware C Corp, of which I own just under 70%. And if you're watching this, chances are you have a piece of Zenny62 Media as well. But that's another story. We reached 1 year old, and I'm excited for the future. But I have to say, this has been one of the best, actually, technically, no, yeah, this has been the best business year of my life, period. And next year is going to be better. Now, let's talk about what matters the most: the game and its implications. That's right. The Baltimore Ravens beat, hey, how you doing? The Baltimore Ravens beat the Cleveland Browns 47 to 42. 47 for the 42. And really, it was 45-42 until the Browns decided they were going to try to reenact the Cal Stanford play, with the Browns being Cal, and it didn't go in the right direction. It went in the wrong direction and wound up into a safety, which is 2 points. Thereby, we get what we get. Now, the game, on its face, looking at the score, would imply two quarterbacks that had the standard gunslinging battle, right? Well, this was different, as you might imagine, with any contest that's going to have Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens quarterback, in it. In this instance, here are the stats for Lamar. Passing, 11 of 17, 163 yards, one touchdown, no interceptions, okay? And you would say, well, God, how'd they get 47 points if he did that? And I would say, well, there's also the running game. But that doesn't mean you take your eye off Jackson, because while he had 11 pass attempts, which is really a low for him, and he is actually clocked in at 9 rushing attempts, 9 carries for 124 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So altogether, Lamar Jackson's accounted for 3 touchdowns for the Browns, 2 by running, 1 by passing, and his running average per carry was scintillating 13.8 yards. Not bad. 13.8 yards, okay? On top of all that, if you take a look at what you're saying, okay, so his total offense output is basically 287 yards. 287 yards. Now, for the Browns and Baker Mayfield, he was 28 of 47 for 343 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, and he didn't contribute anything on the ground. But when you take Lamar Jackson's 287 yards and consider Baker Mayfield's 343, that's a competitive duel with numbers coming in a different way because, again, we're talking about Lamar Jackson. But it was quite literally a game of punches. And in the case of the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson played so hard and has had such an unusual and complicated year physically that he took himself out of the game because of cramps for a good portion of the third quarter, giving way to backup Trace McSorley. And I kid you not, Trace McSorley went down with an injury after playing, I thought, a really credible game. McSorley was 1 of 4, unfortunately. He was 1 of 4, but that statistic would seem to imply he did a lousy job. He was warming up. I mean, this is a case where it's quite obvious he was trained to take Lamar's place, but it wasn't like they game planned expecting that he would have to do so. And I give him a lot of credit. He was 1 of 4 for 13 yards. Unfortunately, he was hit and trying to scramble and hurt what appeared to be his knee in such a way that he would have had to come out of the game. That happened, and for a good long moment, it looked like, you know what? They're going to be in search of a quarterback. No RG3, supposedly, no, right? And guess who comes running out of the tunnel, out of the locker room hospital, if you will? Lamar Jackson. This is on camera, too. He was bounding out of it. And it was like, and you can't really understate this. It was like Superman. It was like Rudy. It was like, it's a movie that was written before our eyes, and Lamar was the star of it. And Lamar said later that he had to come out, that they needed a win, okay? And it was basically, time. He had to come out and he had to win. And what Lamar did was incredible, okay? And, I mean, it was just absolutely incredible. Listen to this tweet. It looks like Trace McSorley, this is by Jamison Hensley, who is ESPN Ravens reporter. It looks like Trace McSorley's left knee buckled on that third down run. Without another healthy QB, Lamar Jackson appears on the sidelines. Ravens trailing Browns 35-34 with 2 minutes left. 2 minutes. And in that 2 minutes, Lamar put the Ravens ahead and in position to win. And he basically said, hey, you know what? Match that, Baker Mayfield. And Baker Mayfield could be seen on the sidelines nodding, it's my turn. That was a heck of a game. I mean, it was a battle for the ages, all right, between two of our young stars. And I have to say this, I'm happy, and I'll get back to the Raiders issue, but I'm really happier still because of the number of people I told that with Lamar Jackson should be a first-round pick. He should be picked by, say, the Raiders. Andy Reid agreed that he was an excellent quarterback prospect. There are people like Bill Polian who had said, he should play at wide receiver. And even some of my friends who were scouting observers and participants were saying, wide receiver. I told each and every one of them, and this is on my videos here at Zenny62 on YouTube, that they were wrong. Okay, absolutely wrong. It was absolutely a crazy idea to have a path-breaking talent like Lamar Jackson in the game as a receiver. No, he played quarterback at Louisville, and what he did at Louisville, I said he's going to do at the NFL level, and he's done precisely that, okay? Or I think better, okay? Better. So with all that, let's cut to the chase, okay? But what I was trying to do was find that moment where Lamar Jackson, because it's on video, where Lamar was, just spells out Lamar Jackson. Just Lamar. That's it, okay? Lamar, all right? And nothing else, okay? And I want to show you, this is something that, before I go back to this, his play is so remarkable, and what he did was so remarkable that you got to see some of these. Watch this right here, okay? Okay, this is from YouTube, from Twitter, all right? And I want you to watch this play as it unfolds. 3rd and 10, okay, he's back. Okay, you see, this is the yardage line, all right? Watch what Lamar does. He flushes out, comes out to the right. He calls this DB an idiot, right? Why? Because he's about to give up. He's about to, as he runs out, Lamar pulls a Patrick Mahomes. Okay, look. And guess who gets the, look at this, all right? He's way out here. But the whole point is he's only where the coaches told him to be, all right? So he's not an idiot. Maybe if you want to point an arrow at the idiot's actually over here on the Browns sideline, all right? But the whole point is, look, he makes this catch right there, boom. And then look what happens. Safety misses the tackle. And this is a big dude that he is being asked to tackle. This is not a small matter. Look at that, okay? He's got about, I would say 6 inches on him. So he makes the move, all right? And then he's headed to the touchdown, for a touchdown. Hey, Sean Watson, how you doing? I mean, again, all right? These are, and this is after, this is the play that Lamar made after he came out of the locker room. All right, this is the play Lamar Jackson made after he came out of the locker room. That's the play Lamar Jackson made after he came out of the locker room to replace the injured Trace McSorley. I mean, and he is, keep in mind, Lamar Jackson is the reigning NFL most valuable player. Anybody care to say that he may get it a second year after this performance? I think so. Because again, with Lamar, you can't look at just one set of stats. You can't just say, okay, we're passing, it was mediocre. Because you have to look at the running, and then you look at 13.8 yards. But then the passing, and you see plays like that. Lamar Jackson is a human playmaker. He needs a better defensive performance on the part of the Ravens. All right? That's what he needs. Now, with all this, where do the Raiders come in with respect to the playoffs? What does the NFL playoff picture look like in general, all right? Well, it just so happens that the NFL has this neat page, which I'm going to take you to right now. We're going to walk through. Like, okay, there it is, all right? Chiefs clinched division for the, let's go through the AFC. The Steelers clinched the North and they clinched the playoffs, all right? And then there are 5 berths available here. In the hunt are the Bills, which are 10-3 in the AFC East. The Titans, which are 9-4 at AFC South. The Browns are now 9-4 with the Titans. The Colts are 9-4. The Dolphins are at 8-5, said to be falling down. And on the bubble are the Ravens at 8-5, the Raiders at 7-6, and the Patriots at 6-7. All right. Let me put it this way: if the Patriots win and the Raiders lose, they would both be at 7-7. And that would be great for the Patriots, and the Raiders, they would still be in the hunt. But if the Ravens win and go to 9-5 and match, right now the Ravens and the Dolphins are matching. The Dolphins are said to be falling down. If the Dolphins fall down and the Ravens replace them, it could be. It depends on how far they fall. But the Colts are rising. The Browns are at 9-4. Or the Bills are at 10-3. Okay, so let's take a look at this. The Bills win the AFC East. They're first. Look, they're close to winning it. They haven't cinched it yet. We've got 3 games. So let's say that the Bills went 10-6. All right. If they went 10-6, and the Titans won out, leaving them at 10 the Titans. If the Titans won one more game to, let me put it this way: if they both were at 10-6, that's one possibility. And then that would leave the East, the South, and the AFC West. The Chiefs have that sewn up already. Okay, so you have the Chiefs; they've clinched the division. The Steelers, 11-2 in the North. The Bills are right behind the AFC. So you're looking at the Bills and the Titans. And what you're looking at right now is a situation where the Raiders would be out if the season stopped. The Ravens, the Raiders, and the Patriots will be out if the season stopped right now. So the Raiders would have to win all out to go. They have a chance to go 10-6. Or, well, you've got 3 games, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10-6. 10-6. So the Raiders have a chance to go 10-6. If they can win out, they would have a chance at the wild card at the least, the way these things are going. Now, the Chiefs, the Steelers are looking at 14-2. The Chiefs are looking at 15-1. And the Bills, I would say, are looking at 13-3. And the Titans are looking at 12-4. Or maybe the Browns are 12-4. Okay, let's say that holds. If these teams hold serve, the organization most likely to get in and replace one of them is the Miami Dolphins at 8-5, and the Ravens. The Raiders, and the Patriots. I'm not optimistic about the Patriots. They have defensive problems. The Browns are at says they're at. This is wrong. The Browns are actually says 3rd in the AFC West. That's the Broncos. I'm sorry, the Broncos. The Broncos are at 5-8. So the Broncos, I would say, by next week, the way things are going, they're looking at 8-8. I'm not optimistic that they will win out. They're streaky. So the Raiders at this point cannot afford another loss. They just can't. And not only that, I think Sean was talking about the Raiders getting a new defensive coach. If you're referring to, I'm not optimistic that Rod Marinelli is the answer, because Rod's the guy that you get if you want to build effective defensive line people. But that said, I'll be honest with you, I didn't think there was anything wrong with Brinson Buckner at all. I'm not saying that Marinelli hasn't done a fantastic job. No, he has. He's done a good job. But the Raiders' defense, if they're going to play a single gap, which I do prefer, they need to play more Buddy Ryan 46 style approaches, and they need to bring their linebackers closer, and they need to be far more aggressive than they are. But they have to figure out what kind of defense they're going to have if they're going to retain Rod Marinelli. If they're going to effectively stop read option systems, then they should really go and hire Derek Mason. And Egalitarian says, do you think the Raiders should hire Ramon Cornell or Marvin Lewis as defensive coordinator? Well, Marvin Lewis it's a good question. I think Marvin Lewis as defensive coordinator, if he wants the job, would be quite good for one reason. 2 reasons. A, his experience, but B, the fact that he's still in football. He's still in college football and has had now an opportunity to be on a staff coaching against some of the most effective modern offenses there are. And I argue those most effective modern offenses are at the college level and not at the NFL level. Hey, welcome to the show. For example, what Oregon has done in over many years is the first great example. And then we have to look at the air raid organizations from Kevin Sumlin at Texas A&M, although he hasn't done a great job at Arizona for whatever reason, or other people that have, like Dana Lorgeson at West Virginia, modernized the game with his version of the air raid. And then, of course, there's Gus Malzahn at Auburn, who has had a dramatic influence on NFL running games of today. So, I can go on and on and on. And the fact is that the innovations you see in the NFL today have come from college, and the SEC has had a dramatic impact on the National Football League. At one point, it was arguably the Pac-12, and particularly when Bill Walsh brought his system from Stanford to the 49ers first, all right, and then basically went back to Stanford with an improved version of the system and won or co-won the Pac-10, what was then the Pac-10 championship, okay? That was 1993. You'd have to go that far back to look at the impact that the Pac-12 now has had on schematic advances in the National Football League. But largely, it's been the SEC and also high school, all right? High school. I don't want to get too far off that track. So I think as far as D coordinators, I'm still stuck on Derek Mason as being the best option because he is an acknowledged expert at stopping the type of offense that Kansas City plays and other organizations in the NFL play. And in his instance, his defensive design, I'm not a two-gap person, but if you know how to coach the two-gap in such a way that you understand leverage and Derek Mason is that coach, then I'll step back. And I also am corrected in my thinking by the success that New England Patriots head coach Bill Belichick has had with a two-gap defensive system. However, I am not a fan of it. I am more of a fan of the Buddy Ryan system. But I don't know of anyone who is active, who's available, who uses that kind of system in college. However, there are a number of players that are familiar with the type of system that Derek Mason runs, and therefore easier to coach and install. Derek Mason is a mix of single gap and two gap. So again, I really favor, hey Egalitarian, how you doing by the way? I really favor Derek Mason. I can't say that enough, and I say it again and again and again. I think the the Las Vegas Raiders, can't help it, should bring in Derek Mason. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. John Gruden has to hire people who are not necessarily his friends, but who can be effective and show him a way that perhaps he is not entirely used to with respect to defense. Now, if he's watching this, he's probably thinking, wow, this guy, talking about me, has been a single gap activist for as long as I can remember. John, I still am, but I'm only talking about what I believe is the best medicine for the Raiders right now. Okay? That's what I'm talking about. All right? You said, what about Derek Ainsley as defensive coordinator? Someone else raised Derek, and I said, look, Derek, great example. He's defensive coordinator. In other words, here's my point. Derek has a job right now. He is defensive coordinator for Tennessee. Why would I place a man who has a job over a man who was just fired, who is regarded as a defensive guru? Now, I'm not saying that Derek Ainsley is not good at defense. No, in fact, just the opposite. He's great at defense. So great that, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Nick Saban said this about Derek Ainsley's defense at Tennessee. And I'm pulling that up right now for the comment, okay? And because, Nick Saban had, hired him, right? And but in October 16th of 2009, this is what Nick Saban said about Derek Ainsley, okay? Cypress, get out of here, okay? I should just, you know what? I'm not in the mood for that at all. I'm just not. I'm not even going to bother. But whatever. Let's see here. This is what Nick Saban said about Ainsley. And here are his comments right here. This is Nick Saban right here. There. And let's make sure the volume is up. And here we go.
He's done a really good job. We've always thought a lot of DA. I don't see a whole lot of different stuff. They do a few things, I guess, a little different, but I see a lot of the same things that are similar to what we do here. But I'm sure I tell you what, they're extremely well coached, regardless of what they're doing, and I definitely think that he's probably contributed, a great deal to that.
So there you go. A ringing endorsement from the man who at one point did hire him, Nick Saban, who I like Nick, okay? And I'll tell you why I like Nick for a self-serving reason, okay? I like Nick because when I was at the 2017 NFL Draft and I wanted to interview him regarding Cam Robinson, they were rushing him by, and I was yelling, Cam Robinson is the antidote to the man who is now the Cleveland Browns defensive end, Myles Jarrett, and I kept yelling it. And he stopped, did Nick Saban. Nick Saban stopped his walk, I kid you not, came on over, all right, and gave me 38 seconds of comment about Cam Robinson. In fact, hear that. Hey, Coach Saban, you got 15 seconds. Here that is, right here. Take a look, okay? This was in Philadelphia, which, by the way, I think did a great job of hosting the NFL Draft. Hey, Coach Saban, you got 15 seconds. Oh, okay. 15. Cam Robinson's the antidote to Myles Jarrett. He is the antidote. What's that? Cam Robinson's the antidote to Myles Jarrett. A few seconds about Cam Robinson, one of the best tackles in college football.
Well, I think Cam Robinson is a guy that we've had several first-round offensive linemen. He may be the guy that, to me, has the most upside and may be the best pro player of all the guys that we've had because of his athleticism, his length, size. He's a good competitor. Somebody's going to get a really good player, Cam Robinson.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, and that's all I wanted. I had made a video focusing on how he had ragdolled Myles Jarrett in that game. Yeah, Myles had some good games, but Cam was the man. Just the guy that the Raiders should have drafted, all right, instead of Galen Conley, and we know the story there. Cam Robinson would have still been a Raider, okay? I kid you not. Cam Robinson would still have been a Raider if they'd taken him. We had a lot of turmoil at left tackle. He would have stabilized the position at a time when, look, the current left tackle at the time was of the temperament we was getting in fights with Raider fans at the Coliseum, or a Raider fan who was a little smarter than Saul was at the Coliseum. True story, okay? Don't need that. Cam Robinson would have stabilized the position and stabilized the salary position as well. But hey, you know what? They didn't listen. Reggie McKenzie didn't listen to me, and I told him at the NFL annual meeting. I told him he should have done that. All right, but he didn't. So, but at any rate, Derek Ainsley fine, but I still say this, that the man who is regarded as the defensive guru regarding stopping the read option, Derek Mason, who's available and unemployed right now as far as I know, I'm typing his name, should be given the Raiders job. And let's see what the latest news is about him. Just that he got fired and everything. And so it's a Vanderbilt thing. And let's see here. This is more about Derek Mason and Sarah Fuller than what I put out there, which at one point was, see, Derek Mason. Of course, I could type Derek Mason and Raiders, right? And if you type Derek Mason and Raiders, my stuff comes up number one. Raiders should hire Derek Mason as defensive coordinator. He's the expert at stopping the read option. Period. That's just there. All right. So, and in terms of what was said about him, or what about Terrell Austin as defensive coordinator for the Raiders? I like the list. Okay, here's the thing. You know what I love about this? You all are crafting a list of black defensive coordinator possibilities for the Raiders, which, I'm going to record right now. And let's see, just because I think my preference aside, or, your preference aside, it's a good idea to have a list and to broadcast the list. Hey, here's the list. Because the mainstream media doesn't do it. Well, we're the media too. So we've got, I think it was Terrell Austin. I want to make sure that I don't know that I thought he was Terrell Austin, who I always thought that he wanted, so here's the thing. They've got Terrell Austin is right now, what is he doing? Do you know Terrell Austin already replaced Gunther before, but he was fired? So that's sort of a retread kind of thing. Let's see what he's doing now here. He is the senior defensive assistant and secondary coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. Okay. All right. So we've got Mr. Austin, right? I'm writing that down. I'm taking notes, okay? We have Terrell Austin. We have Derek. Right? Terrell Austin, Derek Mason, Terrell Austin. Who else did we have? We had, I think someone said Romeo Crennel. Then we had Derek Ainsley, right? Derek Ainsley. That's 4. Who else do we have? As possible names available. We consider the defensive staff. Maybe Chris Richards. Let's see here. I still favor Derek Mason. I'm just looking. All right, Chris Richards. is let's see, Dallas Cowboys passing game coordinator. Yeah, he is American football coach, first assistants. Oh, he's sitting out. This is interesting. Chris Richard wants a hot. He said he made statement here. This is according to my friend Gerald Bell. This is very recent. This is by Jared Bell. And he said that like dozens of NFL players who pressed the pause button in 2020, Chris Richard opted out of this pandemic envelope season of uncertainty. But the decision for the former Dallas Cowboys defensive play caller had nothing to do with COVID-19. Chris Richard has taken a pass because he's betting on himself. Jettisoned by the Cowboys in the sweep that included the firing of Jason Garrett, Richard interviewed for several jobs earlier this year, including 2 head coaching positions, but was offered nothing with a rank higher than defensive backs coach. No thanks. It's kind of like knowing your worth, knowing your value, Richard told USA Today Sport. What's the difference between the two? Do they coincide? Are they interchangeable? Cutting through all of that, I wasn't willing to take anything less than I am. I know what I am, and I know what I'm capable of. Richard's a former NFL quarterback, and I'm actually writing his name down right here. Chris Richard. Okay. Has been a budding star in the coaching ranks. He's a strong communicator and a solid strategist with a reputation for relating well to players. When he joined the Cowboys in 2018 as passing game coordinator / secondary coach, I like that. Offense and defense, it's not bad. It means he's smart. He assumed the play calling duties while working under then coordinator Rod Marinelli. And during the past 2 hiring cycles, he interviewed for 5 head coaching jobs, including a 3-in-1-day marathon following the 2018 season and the Giants job that went to Joe Judge this year. Yet, despite being on that particular radar, there is risk to Richard's bold stance against the backdrop of historical barriers for, Jarrett says, minority coaches. I don't know why we have a problem saying minority as opposed to saying black coaches, okay? Just 3 were hired amid 20 head coach openings over the past 3 cycles, and with the fickle nature of who's hot or not among candidates, Richard seeks to advance while coming off a hiatus. And Rod Graves, the executive director of the Fritz Pollard Association, says that he should be able to come back and get top consideration. And so that he held out this year. I get it. Okay, here's my thing. All right, hold on a second. My issue. So Steve Wilkes I also have interviewed here. So you've got and I like Steve a lot. I think Steve has did a fantastic job with the Carolina Panthers. I am at the time quite a fantastic job. Now you asked about also Chris Hewitt here, and Chris Hewitt, and this is good. Looks like you're busy at the internet. I like it. Chris Hewitt is past defensive coordinator with the Baltimore Ravens. I'll put him down. Okay, I think the challenges aside, that well, it's a COVID-19 situation, so I'm not going to be too hard on him. As player, he played with the Saints from 97 to 99. He was assistant strength and conditioning coach at Notre Dame in 2003. From 2004 to 2011, he was the running back and cornerbacks coach at Rutgers. He was the defensive back coach for the Ravens from 2012 to last year. And this year, he is the pass defense coordinator. So I don't see anything in his pedigree. All right. Because he hasn't been a D coordinator top yet. In other words, but I will put him in there because I think that he should go through the process of being interviewed, right? Hey, Joe Marks, how you doing? So I'm putting Chris Hewitt in here as well. And look at this. We have Derek Mason, Terrell Austin, Romeo Crennel, Derek Ainsley, Chris Richard, Steve Wilkes, and Chris Hewitt as candidates. All African American with great resumes. And so, and he's also coached on a Super Bowl champion team, did Chris Hewitt, all right? Is Iverson coming back to play for the Steelers? Don't know. So I'm wondering if I just typed in, right, black coaching candidates, what I get. Last time, so what minority coaching candidates would be good fits for, good fits for head coach positions, and that was last year. It's been a year. And that was by Jason Reed. And we Winston Moss. Winston Moss is another name here. Winston Moss. Yeah. And we talked about Winston Moss the other night, and I'm glad you brought him up, but I didn't mean to exclude him from the list. I just added him here, okay? And a person who was, I think, was drummed out. The Packers fired him for a stupid reason. He was a head coach in the XFL, all right, and head coach for the XFL. And so I think Winston Moss has, and my criticism was at the time, he has a great track record of relating to players, but with respect to the Raiders situation, I'm looking for, and the reason why Derek Mason is at the top of my list, I'm looking for a guy that knows how to stop the Chiefs' style of offense and its variations. And Derek Mason is that guy. And all the other people, of all of them, the only other person in this list, the only two that I know of that have an excellent resume are Romeo Crennel and Steve Wilkes. All right. Now, regarding Steve and stopping the read option, I don't know that Steve has ever been regarded. I mean, I've studied what he's done personally, okay, and I've had the pleasure of interviewing the man, and I thought he got a bum rap, but it should have been given another chance. But hey, look, he had a 3-13 record. They wanted to do better. They wanted somebody more exciting, and yeah, I have to say that Cliff Kingsbury has done a good job. Hey, John, Dan Quinn, I'm looking for African-American candidates. I'm being very focused on this. And of the list that I put together regarding the Raiders' issues, Derek Mason's the best. Also, the kind of defense, the Seattle defense that Dan Quinn runs, and I'm not sold on with respect to stopping the Chiefs' offense. Okay? I'm just not. So I'm not an advocate, and I personally know Dan Quinn. Dan's a great guy, but there is a major problem here of this habit of hiring somebody every time that happens to be white, and someone says, "What is it shouldn't be racist, it should be merit," and that's a joke. And the reason it's a joke is because for all of our existence, people have gotten hired because they had a certain friend or someone with the same political stripe, or they were, if it was a situation like hiring an assistant in like the 60s in the Mad Men, it was somebody that the office boss wanted to sleep with, you know. It's always been for reasons, not always. It is more often than not, okay, been for reasons having to do with something other than truly the best. I mean, even in the situation where you say, well, you've got charges, hires from Ivy League schools, that doesn't mean they're the best. It just simply means that you prize an Ivy League education. And so therefore, we're back to the whole issue of groupism, right? And the habit in some circles of late today is to say, okay, rather than admitting that, like one person I worked for years ago, I'm not going to say the name, black, had once said that the white man's ice was colder, all right? That's an admitted racism that he used in a joke, which I'm not going to go into at length, but it sparked a discussion that was worth having. But it gets into how we really base our decisions on emotion first, and then we fill in the blanks with intellect, with information and data that we believe best fits our emotional desires. Okay? I know it's a hard, fact for some people to swallow, but look, you're reacting emotionally. Okay? The fact of the matter is, that's what we do. And that's why we have the problem. Because you have people who don't, in their mind, even some people who look like me, see or want to see someone black in a position of power. That's changing. But I'm going to share with something with you that Harvard Professor Derek Bell, professor of law, once said around the time that Barack Obama was running for president, okay? And he was getting a cab in New York, and he was talking with a cab driver about President Obama and about how the situation was changing racially. And the cab driver said that if he gets up to where he is, the excuses will be gone. In other words, no one can say, oh, it was racism is the reason that I didn't get my due, right? It's racism. In other words, certain truths about our lives are covered up by the existence of racism. The only way to remove that and really spur us to be better as people, and also to get to know the people that are going to allow us to get to where we want to go, is first of all to have more people at the top so that we can reduce who look like us, who we can reduce the possibility that racism is that issue. And then at the same time as we do that, the competition will produce better candidates, better black candidates, and the problem it won't go away. It will be what is happening now. It's more melded into a type of classism, all right? But it will be less of a problem than it has been. And if you take a look at the commercials on television and how mixed they are, I'll tell you, as a person who's 58 years old, I never in my life thought I would see a majority of commercials in America that were mixed with, black wife, white husband, or the Nissan commercial, is an example of that, right? Or other commercials where you have like the food commercial where the lady says, we don't have to cook anymore, white wife, black husband who's very ecstatically happy he doesn't have to cook anymore. People being portrayed as, just living life, being concerned about things like, frozen dinners and new cars. That's the way it has been, and that's the way it ought to be. So, what we have to do in football is make sure that football reflects the rest of our lives. I mean, at all levels, pro and college. It's ridiculous what's happening. Derek Mason was essentially fired because, I mean, if I type in now, why was Derek Mason fired? Okay, fired. Okay, why was Derek Mason fired? All right, fired. And it says, according to the Tennessean, the firing came after Vanderbilt lost 41-0 in Missouri in a game where the Vanderbilt attention largely focused on the Commodores playing women's soccer player Sarah Fuller at kicker. All right, and so fans reacted, and a great blog, I think, Saturday Down South. John Marks says that racism is a form of mental illness. And in the wake of Vanderbilt firing coach Derek Mason, reaction poured in, including potential replacements. The firing came after Vanderbilt lost 41-0 at Missouri on Saturday in a game where the Vanderbilt attention largely focused on the Commodores playing women's soccer player Sarah Fuller at kicker. The initial list appears to center on Charlotte coach Wolf Haley at 35. Okay, blah. All right. Let's see here. Derek Mason gone and things that should have happened a year ago, someone had said. With Vanderbilt parting ways with Derek Mason, you wonder if this opens the door for John House. And it says it's getting utterly humiliated with the entire country watching to do it, but it finally happened. Derek Mason is gone. May we never speak of this era again. And damn, Derek Mason fired. Vandy is a tough job. No town support. Standards of admission. Played Gators, Georgia, and Tennessee every year. He'll land a DC job for a few years and get another head coaching shot. And it says, Derek Mason has been fired. His parting gift to Vandy was some positive publicity since he never gave them wins. Sad to see Derek Mason go. He's an excellent defensive coordinator. Note that. But was out of his depth as a head coach. Something that I've said. Okay. Vanderbilt itself also failed him by giving him the worst facilities in the SEC. Okay. Names you'll no doubt hear for Vanderbilt, all that stuff. Okay, so you get an idea. This is a long article, all right? Here's another. I cannot believe Vandy fired Derek Mason. Me neither. I don't think they will get any interest from SEC-worthy coaches. It's the worst job in college football. Mason actually wanted to be there and was a decent coach. Hope I'm wrong, but if you didn't think Vandy could be any worse, just wait. So, there you go. All right, it was a dumb thing to do. Not only that, I'll say this. It's dumb to fire a coach in the middle of a pandemic. Because if you fire a coach in the middle of a pandemic now, I'll bet you the person you hire is not going to achieve any success next year when you still have this hybrid schedule and you're maybe just quite getting back to normal, but not quite. Here's why. Because you're going to be getting the A teams and A schedules and A situations that you didn't get this year. And so you're going to have Bill Belichick back at full power, among other great coaches. And the one-loss record and the spread and who's ready is going to change at the NFL level and especially in college football. All right? Now the question is, a good coach should be able to coach under any situation, right? This has been weird. Players that can't play, staff and employees get coronavirus, impacts the whole situation. Schedule, games are canceled at the last moment. Teams that you practiced for, you game planned for all year, suddenly you're not going to see them. And on all of this, you are going to make a determination of who to fire? That's stupid. So really, we shouldn't be talking about, even in the case of Paul Guenther, getting fired. And I'm not a fan of what Paul Guenther has done. But in fairness to Paul Guenther, this situation was not ideal. Did he have the same problems? Yeah. But look, the Raiders, you got to admit, the Raiders defense started out better this year. And then the roster started to become impacted by the same situation. And it fell quite a bit. Okay? So, different teams and their records are exemplary of how they handled the coronavirus situation. The Rams did a bubble. The Buccaneers are still one of the top teams. They haven't been impacted much at all. So I think this is a really horrible situation within which to evaluate a coach. But cat's out of the bag. All right, folks. Kirby Smart, whose Georgia team lost to Vandy, had this to say about Derek Mason. And he said, "Unfortunate to get the news about Derek yesterday. He's become a good friend. Guy I have a lot of respect for in this profession. The job he's always done with his units when he was at Stanford. They've always played so hard at Vandy. I've gotten to know him in the off-season and taking a trip with some other coaches and his wife. I know the future will be bright for him because he'll have a lot of opportunities moving forward because he's a really good football coach." And folks, I'm going to end with that. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. We'll see you.